Ready for a deep dive into like the really high-end design world?
Oh, yeah.
We're talking Leather Goods Cad Patternmaker career path today.
Nice.
You want the inside scoop, the skills you need. How do you even land a job? We've got you covered.
You know, it's really fascinating about this fusion of like traditional craftsmanship with cutting-edge technology. So you're merging artistry and digital precision.
Yeah, and that's where RoleCatcher.com comes in.
Okay.
We've got 3 of their resources we're going to unpack today. So a career guide specifically for Leather Goods Cad Patternmakers. We've got info on their interview prep tools and then like a peek into how their platform supports job seekers.
Really, the mission is to like sift through all this information with you and then see if this career path actually like aligns with your own goals.
Let's do it. So break it down.
Yeah.
What does a Leather Goods Cad Patternmaker actually do?
Yeah.
It's got to be more nuanced than what people might think. They're not just computer wizards, right?
Yeah.
They're like the architects of all those like gorgeous leather goods you see everywhere.
Precisely. So think about them as like the critical link between the designer's initial vision and then the tangible product. You know, a designer might sketch a stunning handbag, but it's the CAD pattern maker who translates that artistic concept into a precise, functional 2D blueprint.
Wow. So it's like they're taking that initial spark of like creative energy and then turning it into like a set of instructions to make sure the final product is flawless.
And that's where it gets even more interesting. A deep understanding of leather as a material is absolutely crucial.
Okay.
Knowing how different grades of leather stretch how they react to stitching, that's essential for creating a successful pattern.
So it's not just about like mastering the design software, you're understanding like the soul of the material itself.
Absolutely. And RoleCatcher's career guide really highlights this blend of technical expertise, the creativity, the problem solving. This isn't a job for someone who just wants to like be in a silo all day.
No, definitely not.
Yeah.
And speaking of their guide, let's get into some of those like industry insights it provided.
Yeah.
On the plus side, high demand for this skill set.
For sure.
Potentially really great salary. And honestly, who wouldn't want to work with like luxurious leather all day?
What? Yeah, of course it's not all just glamour.
Right.
The guide also points out some potential downsides. Tight deadlines, constant need to be like tech savvy, and the potential for, repetitive strain injuries if you're not careful.
Oh, yeah.
Ergonomic best practices, all that.
Yeah. It's a good reminder that every career path has those trade-offs.
It is.
So it's about figuring out what you're willing to compromise on.
Exactly. That's where careful consideration of your priorities is really key.
Love it. All right, so let's shift gears just a little bit and talk about the specific skills you'd be using on the job.
Okay.
RoleCatcher actually breaks down those core abilities, and I have to admit I was surprised by one in particular.
I'm betting you're talking about active listening.
Yes.
Being ranked as highly important as the technical design knowledge.
You know me way too well.
Of course.
It highlights how collaborative this career really is.
For sure. Like a miscommunication about how flexible a certain leather is.
Oh, yeah.
Could mean the difference between a design that totally wows people and a product that completely flops.
Yeah, for sure.
Active listening makes sure everyone's on the same page.
That makes a lot of sense. So you're not just like tucked away in a corner designing in isolation.
Right.
You're constantly interacting with these designers, with production teams, maybe even suppliers.
Absolutely. Collaboration is at the heart of bringing these luxury leather goods to life.
I love it. Okay, so we've established this job needs a very unique blend of skills, but where do you even begin on this career path?
Well, RoleCatcher's guide outlines typical responsibilities for each stage. Entry-level, junior, and senior positions.
Okay.
Think of it as like a roadmap for your career journey.
So having this roadmap of the different career stages is so helpful, right?
Totally.
Especially for someone just starting out.
Absolutely. At the entry level, you're like an apprentice, You're honing your CAD skills. You're absorbing knowledge from those seasoned professionals.
Okay.
So think tasks like assisting with like quality control checks on existing patterns or like familiarizing yourself with the company's specific software.
It's about building that foundation.
Exactly. Then as you move up to a junior level, you're given more autonomy.
Okay.
You might be designing and adjusting those 2D patterns independently. Maybe you even start taking on like some mentorship responsibilities.
Oh, wow.
As new team members come on board.
So not only are you creating, you're starting to guide others too.
And that brings us up to senior level, okay? Now, you're the expert, right?
Right.
Leading teams, you're tackling those intricate designs,
Right.
and likely, pushing the boundaries of what's possible with leather and technology.
I love it. That's awesome. But let's rewind for just a second, talk about the really important technical skills here.
Oh, yeah.
What does mastering the software actually entail?
Well, RoleCatcher gave some good details there. One that really sticks out is that you got to understand nesting modules in CAD systems.
Nesting modules. Break that down for me.
So it's all about maximizing efficiency and minimizing waste when it comes to laying out those 2D patterns on the actual leather.
Right.
So you're basically using algorithms, spatial reasoning to figure out the most, cost-effective way to cut the pieces.
Wow.
But at the same time, you have to maintain the integrity of each design element.
It's not just about creating a pattern that looks good. It's about understanding how that pattern turns into the actual material that's being used.
Totally. Material consumption is a big deal in this role.
Right.
Especially in an industry that's more and more focused on sustainability.
Of course, yeah.
So deeply understanding nesting modules, that can actually make a big difference in a company's bottom line.
Yeah.
And, their environmental impact.
It's kind of like that saying, measure twice, cut once.
Right.
But on a whole other level.
Precisely. And that whole emphasis on precision and efficiency that ties directly into another key takeaway from RoleCatcher: continuous learning.
Yeah, the fashion industry, it's always changing, right?
Always.
New trends, new technologies, new materials.
Absolutely. So, to stay ahead of the game, Leather Goods Cad Patternmakers have to be dedicated to expanding their skills.
Oh, wow.
So that could mean staying up to date on the latest software, going to industry conferences, maybe even experimenting with new materials and techniques in their free time.
Wow. So it's about having that drive to always be learning, to keep pushing those creative boundaries.
Yes, and that's something that really speaks to that learner persona we've been talking about. It's not just about getting those skills and that's it. It's about always wanting to learn more.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And that pursuit of knowledge, it can lead to some really awesome opportunities.
Totally.
RoleCatcher mentioned some of the less obvious perks of this career path. And I've got to say, they sound pretty good.
Right. We're talking maybe working with famous designers.
Yeah.
Seeing your patterns on a runway. Even the chance to travel and work with international manufacturers.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
But for someone who's just starting out, navigating all that can feel a little overwhelming, right?
It can.
That's where RoleCatcher's interview prep tools seem so valuable.
100%. They have these tailored practice questions that are made to help you show off those skills that employers want to see.
Right.
For example, they highlight this question: can you walk me through how you'd create a pattern from a design concept?
That's such a good question.
Right.
It's not just about your technical skills. It's about if you understand that whole design process.
Exactly. And this is where that hands-on experience with leather that we were talking about can really make you stand out.
Totally.
Imagine being able to talk about how you actually consider the leather, the stitching techniques, how it all comes together in the end when you're creating your patterns.
That shows a whole other level of understanding that you don't get just from knowing how to use the software.
Exactly. You're not just a CAD operator, you're a real craftsman.
Yeah.
You get the little things that turn a design into reality.
Right. Okay, so we know that a deep understanding of the craft is key.
Yeah.
But what about those super important soft skills?
Well, RoleCatcher's resources had some great stuff on that too. Remember how they highlighted active listening?
Oh, yeah, for sure. It really shows how collaborative this career is.
For sure. And it's more than just listening to what someone says. It's about really understanding the designer's vision, thinking ahead about challenges, and then being able to communicate your own ideas clearly.
So you have to be a true team player.
Yes.
Someone who can contribute to those creative choices, but then also handle the technical parts.
Yes, being able to communicate well is so important for anyone in a creative field.
Especially when you're dealing with those tight deadlines.
Right.
And those high-pressure situations.
Absolutely. If you can explain your ideas clearly, listen to feedback and find solutions together, it can really make a difference.
Speaking of solutions, RoleCatcher's resources also mentioned problem solving in this role. Can you talk more about that?
Well, absolutely. It's not enough to just follow the steps.
Right.
A really good Leather Goods Cad Patternmaker, they need to be able to see those challenges coming. before they even pop up. They got to look at a design and think, okay, is this stitching going to work with this kind of leather?
Right.
Or how is this one design element going to affect how tough the final product is?
So it's almost like they have this like sixth sense for anything that could go wrong.
Exactly. And when those problems happen, because they always do, right?
Right, yeah.
You have to be able to come up with creative solutions.
Okay.
So maybe that means working with the designer to tweak the design. Right.
Maybe it's finding a totally new way to work within those limits of the materials.
Right.
Or even coming up with brand new techniques.
Wow, that's a lot. So it sounds like you need a good mix of flexibility and knowing your stuff technically.
You got it. You have to be cool with working within the rules, but also be able to adapt when things get a little crazy, which they always do in creative fields.
Right. When you put it that way, it really makes you appreciate all the little things that go into making these high-end leather goods that I think we all kind of take for granted.
That's true. Speaking of little things, RoleCatcher's interview prep, they really zero in on the skills that these employers really want to see. One question they highlight is, how do you keep up with all the latest trends and technology in the industry?
That's huge. Like we were saying before, fashion is always changing.
Always.
So how can someone who wants to be a leather goods CAD pattern maker show they're keeping up?
This is where they can really show off their love of learning.
Okay.
Maybe they're subscribed to industry magazines.
Right. Maybe they follow designers on social media.
Oh, yeah.
Or they even go to those virtual workshops and webinars.
So it's more than just the basics.
Yes.
They're out there finding new knowledge in unexpected spots.
And that's what makes this whole thing so exciting.
Totally.
It's a job that really appreciates curiosity, being able to adapt, and that real passion for pushing those creative limits.
I love that.
Yeah.
So we talked about a lot today. We explored those technical skills, how important those soft skills are, what your career path could look like, and even got a peek at some of the cool perks this job can bring.
Right. And before we wrap things up, I want to go back to something we talked about a little earlier.
Okay.
That idea of adding hands-on leatherworking experience on top of your digital skills.
Oh, yeah. RoleCatcher mentioned that, but we thought it deserved a little more attention.
Yeah, definitely. Imagine this. You've got the software down, Pat.
Okay.
But you also know how to do the hand stitching.
Yeah.
The difference between all those leather treatments, how a design goes from 2D on the computer to the real deal.
That would make you really stand out.
Totally. It shows that you're not messing around.
Right.
It tells those employers that you get it, the whole craft inside and out.
So it's about connecting what you do on the computer with what you can do with your hands.
Yes.
Becoming like a true expert.
Exactly. And that's something worth going after.
So well said. We hope this deep dive gave you all the info and inspiration to check out the world of being a leather goods CAD pattern maker. Keep learning, keep creating, and don't be afraid to get your hands a little dirty. Until next time.